You're listening to the Vibrant Vision Podcast, a podcast designed to help you get clarity, increase your confidence, and cultivate the most important connections so you can have the impact you were created to make. I'm your host, Amanda Kerrigan. Now let's get to making that vibrant vision a reality. Hey, welcome back to the second episode of the Vibrant Vision Podcast. I am so excited you've joined me today because today we're going to talk about the number one thing that keeps people stuck, the number one thing that keeps people from achieving their vibrant visions, and that is a lack of clarity. Clarity is the number one thing I hear people asking for online. It's the number one thing I hear people talking about in forums, and it's the number one thing, let's be honest, that my current and potential clients come to me asking for. They just say things like, I wish I had clarity. I wish I knew what direction to take. I have a decision to make and I have no peace about which decision is the right decision. And it's the thing that keeps people stuck setting the same old goals year after year after year. Maybe you're in that situation. Maybe you are sitting there because it's that time of year when we start thinking about winding down the current year and ramping up for the next year. And people are setting the same goals that they set year after year after year. And maybe you have one of those goals. For me, actually, embarrassing secret, it was this podcast. I've been setting a goal to launch a podcast for 3 years, and I finally just got sick of it. I finally just said, you know what? I'm going to talk about what I know people need to hear, and we'll just see what happens. And so I don't know what's going to happen with this podcast. I'm excited about it. I hope you're excited about it. But to be honest, that lack of clarity had kept me stuck for so long. And so I was coaching a client again about the same issue. She wanted to have clarity on something that she needed to do. And actually, I got her permission. We're going to change her name, but I got her permission to talk to you about this because it's so important. And I noticed as I coached her that I asked one form or another of the same 3 questions. So we're going to do a little bit of coaching on this call with you today. And so the first thing I want you to do is think of a situation in which you need clarity to move forward. Whatever it is, it could be a business issue, a issue with your business or your work. It could be a family issue, something with your spouse or your kids or your parents or your siblings. It could be a financial issue, a decision you have to make. Is it the right time to invest in this remodel? It could be a health issue, something that you need clarity on to move forward in changing your health. Whatever it is, think of that issue. Hit pause if you need to. I'll wait. I'm still going to be hanging out with you. Think of that issue, and then when you're ready, we'll move forward. Okay, you ready? All right, let's do it. The number one question is, what do you want to see happen? So many times we think we know what we want until somebody asks us to articulate it. And then we're like, well, I guess I want. And that's not what we want, because we want something that is clear. Again, clarity. We don't want something that's vague or nebulous or maybe doesn't have a real definitive outline. So write down what you want. And a lot of times people, especially when they're coaching, they say, well, I know what I don't want. Well, I don't want this. I don't want to have a relationship with my kid that's strained. I don't want to be put in a position where I will have debt. And that's good. Write down what you don't want. Okay. Say what you don't want. Whatever it is, I know not everybody's a writer, but sometimes it really helps to record that. So even if you grab a tape recorder and you say, I don't want this, but I want that, whatever it is that allows you to really articulate what you're doing is important. And don't think of something that's realistic. I hate the SMART goal format. I hate it. Okay. I think it's effective if you're just learning to start setting goals, but then it limits you. That attainable, realistic section really limits you. Don't think of what's realistic. Well, I'd like this, but I can't, because that's not really going to help you. Get clarity. That's just going to keep you continuously stuck in the same old patterns. So what do you actually want? Don't think of realistic. Don't think of money. Don't think of time. Just write down what you want. Okay. If you have that, we're going to start with the next question is, What do you need to know right now to get what you want? Because a lot of times clarity comes from a not knowing. And we think we should know something, or we think we need to know something to move forward. So write that down. So my friend Sharon used to say, yeah, girl, but you don't know what you don't know. And sometimes that's true. You don't know. If there's a question mark there, write it down. If there's something that you're like, wow, I don't know what I need to know, sit with it. Okay. Because I don't know is actually really where the coaching begins. I don't know what I need to know. That's okay. Sit with it. What is the one thing that if you knew would allow you to take action? What's the thing that's kept you going in circles time after time because you don't know it? So I'm going to give you some time. Write that down. And I'll bring this example to you that my client had. So we're going to call her Sarah, and Sarah wanted to determine how she could build her immune system because she has, unfortunately, a compromised immune system, and we're heading into cold and flu season. And of course, the pandemic is still a thing. And she's like, I don't know what I should be doing to build my immune system. So the thing that she said she wanted was she wanted to know how to strengthen her immune system so she wouldn't get sick or she wouldn't get as sick during this winter. So that's what she wanted. So when I asked her what she needed to know, she was just like, I don't know. So we sat with it. And here's what she came up with. Number one, how does the immune system work? That is huge. And we talked about it a little bit. I mentioned in the last episode, 70% of our immune system is actually in our gut, in our intestines. And so we talked about that. And then her question was what supplements or homeopathics would strengthen her immune system. She's very into supplements. She's very into homeopathics. And so she's asking the question because she doesn't know. Next thing she wanted to know was what Western medicine interventions might help. Because again, she does not want to get sick. She'll try anything, which is what she told me. I'll try anything. And then she wanted to know, how do I strengthen myself emotionally and physically so that I don't get sick? Because stress is a huge contributor to our immunity or lack thereof. So do you see how this makes you more empowered, more able to handle that lack of clarity, just knowing what you don't know? The third question is, where can you find those answers? So you wrote down what you don't know. Now, the third question is, where can you find them? What resources, what people, what books or podcasts would help you know what you need to know? So take everything that you wrote down and ask yourself, what is one person, one trusted authority, one resource, whatever it is, and write down what you need to know. And so one really important thing, and the final step that we're going to get to, is sometimes you have to take a next step to know what you need to know. That's okay. Take that next step. If you need to take a step to get an answer, write that down. Do you need to call somebody? Do you need to set up a meeting with somebody? Do you need to do research, intentional research, not going down the rabbit trail of the internet, but really doing some intentional research and not getting distracted, staying focused? And finally, I want to say this. I have a friend who is an engineer, and he said, oh, Amanda, we'll just black box that when we were talking about a project we were working on. And I was like, what does that mean? Black box it. And he goes, yeah, when we don't know something, we put a black box around it, and it's an unknown in the project until the project is at a point that that thing reveals itself. So here's my final bonus question to you. What do you need to black box? What do you need to put a box around and say, I don't know this, and I'm going to choose to be okay with not knowing this? For me, it was, how do I figure out how to get listeners to this podcast? And while I was developing the ideas behind it, I had to put that in a black box because I knew that reaching you would be something that I could figure out after I had all of the pieces in place of who I wanted to serve, how I wanted to serve them, etc. And so if you're here, I just want to let you know, like, you were in a black box at one point, and that's okay because we figured it out. and you're hanging out with me today. So be okay with that. So getting clarity often starts with getting clear on what you want, getting honest about what you really, really, really want, figuring out what you need to know, and then determining where you can get those answers. If you can do that, you've won 90% of the clarity battle. And the other 10% is making sure that you get behind the wheel and drive. One of my coaching instructors always used to say, you can't drive a parked car. So put it in gear and start taking action. So if you've enjoyed today's episode, I'd appreciate a review. Reviews help others find the podcast, help others get clarity that they need. So I would really appreciate a review. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Until next time, get clear, get confident, get connected, and live your vibrant vision.